I've just finished installing one of the biggest campervan electrical systems I've ever put in a van, and I'm going to take you through why I've done this and why the customer has chosen to go completely gas-free. My name is John, I run Bayerhard Campers, a van conversion company making premium handcrafted campervans and off-grid electric systems. So the customer's goal was to have a completely off-grid, gas-free campervan. There's lots of terms thrown around like off-grid, gas-free you might see thrown about online, but what that really means is you need to be able to power what gas would power just with electrics. Usually the kind of traditional motorhome, caravan, campervan type setup is that anything high powered would only work when plugged into the campsite hookup, so it kind of bypasses your electric system and essentially acts like a giant extension lead to power anything that might draw a bit more power than your electric system can handle. As soon as you want to do that off-grid, it means you need an electric system big enough to give all of that power at any one time, and also big enough to be able to store enough power so that it doesn't just deplete in a couple of minutes. Unfortunately, that means it's really expensive. So the electric system will be really expensive. However, over time, it means you're not really needing to ever top up with anything, because if you spec it correctly, you'll be getting free power from multiple different ways of charging, and that will always keep your system topped up enough to produce that electricity off-grid without having to plug into a hookup point. And because you're gas free, you're never going to have to go and pay for gas. The reason why this is becoming quite popular these days is because gas is usually by way of an underslung gas tank. You have to go to a certain petrol station that actually has this gas on tap. Often you might drive an hour to find one of these and you turn up and they don't have it. So more and more people are wanting to go completely gas-free. That's fine if you don't want to do anything that draws a lot of power. You can get away with switching from a gas heater to a diesel heater. The Truma D4E is what we put in this campervan, and that's a combination air and water heater which uses diesel from the diesel tank in your van. The actual bit that heats the air and water is diesel, so you don't need gas for that. The other main thing you'd use gas for is cooking. This is probably the trickier thing. You can get diesel hobs and ovens, but they are super expensive. They're thousands and thousands of pounds. So the other option is an induction hob. So that means that our electric system needs to be big enough to be able to handle that. So what that means in real terms is you need an inverter that's big enough to handle the wattage, the power of the item, which is the induction hob. And then you need a battery big enough so it doesn't just deplete in 5 minutes. And then you need to match all the other parts of your system to that. So it's all very well having a massive inverter and a big battery, being able to push out loads of power when you need it, but if you weren't able to charge that system, it's kind of pointless, because you'll use it up and then you just have to go and find a campsite hookup to plug in again to charge it. So then you need a big solar controller to match. You need a DC to DC charger, so connecting your van starter battery and alternator to your system so that when you're driving, any excess power your van alternator is making is fed back into your system. So there's two forms of kind of off-grid charging. So suddenly you're putting all these blocks bigger and bigger and bigger so everything matches, and you've got a decent sized system just to be able to run that induction hob. If you create the electric system and you spec it properly, you should be able to do it so that you're not constantly thinking, have I got enough power? So if we want to get into the actual technical part of it, I can talk you through the system that we've put in here. So we've got a big Fogstar Drift lithium battery. It's 280 amp hour, but it's 24 volt. This brings me nicely into a point where when you get to the bigger systems, you have to make the decision of, do you want to go 12 volt or 24 volt? And if you remember back to science at school, if you remember the triangle where you've got watts over amps times volts. So everything's related to each other. So if you change one, others kind of change, so it all kind of makes sense. Kind of basic reason why you might want to do that. If you've got a big system with loads of power, loads of amps going through all the cables, you need bigger, fatter cables to be able to take that and essentially not melt. It's like the bandwidth. So a bigger cable can have more going through at any one time. 12 volts is pretty low because normal household is 230, 240 volts. it means that the amps going through has to be quite high. If you doubled the voltage from 12 to 24, you can reduce the amount of amps that's going through. So you can basically use cables at half the thickness. And it means that all your components are kind of rated slightly differently as well. So the Fogstar Drift leisure battery, 24 volts, 280 amp hour. At 12 volts, that's 560 amp hour. If you're kind of relating it to a normal 12 volt system, you might have 100 or 200 amp hour battery. So even though it says 280 amp hour on the side of this, it's equivalent to 560 in that kind of 12 volt world. So if you decide to do a 24 volt system because you're using a big Multiplus or a big inverter, and you've got lots of power going through, then you just need to get specific components, in this case Victron components, to work with that. So for example, your DC to DC controller, instead of being 12 volt to 12 volt, which is 12 volt in the van starter battery to 12 volt in your system, it's 12 volt to 24 volt. Your Multiplus or your inverter will be the same. And then the one extra thing you need to put in this 24 volt system is a converter. So then all the main components are kind of working at 24 volts. Right at the last moment in the system, you have a step down converter. So it goes from 24 volts back down to 12 volts. And then that feeds into your distribution board, which goes to all of your accessories, lights and everything. That's what we did here, 24 volt system, and we've actually put in a decent amount of charging onto this. So we've got 500 watt solar panel, two 12 to 24 volt 15 amp DC chargers, and we've got a 3000 watt Multiplus too. We've got the 24 to 12 volt converter, we've got the MPPT solar controller, got Links distributor and all the various fuses, switches, and then on the mains electric side we've got two metal consumer units. So one consumer unit is for the hookup kind of on-grid side of things, other consumer unit is for the inverted energy side of things. Power comes in, you can kind of split it up and protect it in multiple different circuits. In this case, it's sending it to the Multiplus to feed the Multiplus. And if we wanted to send it to something else, we could. So we actually did send one to the Truma D4E. because the Truma D4E has got a separate electric element in there. The reason why we did that through the hookup and not through the Multiplus is because when you're off-grid, you'd be using the diesel and you'd be using the off-grid power for the induction hob. If we had run the electric element for the diesel heater through the off-grid system as well, it would deplete the batteries faster than is necessary because you may as well use the diesel for that. So that's the hookup side of the consumer unit. And then the other consumer unit is the inverter side. Everything coming out of the inverter goes into that consumer unit, and we're just still talking about mains electric power here, so 230 volt power. So that will come out of the Multiplus and into that distribution board, that consumer unit, and then that will split it up and go to all the different circuits, so different circuits, the induction hob. So that's everything that we would say is off-grid mains power. And if that wasn't confusing enough, the Multiplus also has a pass-through mode. So when it is plugged in to hook up, not only does it switch over instantaneously so it starts charging the batteries, it also passes through any circuit that runs off of the AC out. It will stop taking it from your batteries, it will start taking it from the hookup. Even though we've got those two consumer units, if you're plugged in, the inverter side isn't necessarily always running from your batteries. You are using off-grid power only when you need to, and if you are plugged in, it all kind of just clicks over, sorts itself out so that it's saving you off-grid power and then starts charging your batteries as well. In the actual usage of it, it's supposed to be simple, and that's the whole point of it. So we've got the two DC-DC chargers, 15 amps each, 30 amps in total, but because that's at 24 volts, when it goes down to 12 volts, that's the equivalent of 60 amps of charging. So that's big amount of charging when you're driving there. And then we've got the 500 watts of solar, and that comes into the MPPT and charges the batteries. That's, I would say, 500 watts. It's one panel we've got here of 500 watts, which basically takes up the entire roof of the van. So that's probably the biggest you can get on there and that is well matched with that system, especially when you've got all of that DC-DC charging in as well. So with those two forms of charging for that battery, that's perfectly matched, I would say. And then you've just got the added bonus if you were to plug in to hook up. So one of the problems that I had with this system is the physical side of fitting it all into that space. So you can see it takes up quite a lot of space in the garage area. The main part of the system is on a separate board that's separate to the wall. That's mainly just so we can wire it up on the bench. So we can wire 99% of the wires up on the bench and then put it in the van and then do the final wiring. I would have liked to have the whole system on one board, but the Multiplus and all of that is just too much to get on. So we put the Multiplus on its own next to it and had to wire that up separately, and then everything else just about squeezed on there, but it was pretty tight. There's a lot of stuff in there generating heat. So what we've done is we've put it in that area, and then we've created shrouds and protection bits, and we've boxed in part of it, part of the battery, just so that we've got it protected from anything in the garage area, but then we've also got maximum amount of airflow between everything in there as well. And one other nice thing we've got in here is the Cerbo GX, which is kind of like the hub of the system in terms of monitoring. We've run a long HDMI cable to the other side of the van into one of the top cabinets, and that's so you can get a quick bird's eye view of what's happening in your system. You can see what power's going in, what power's going out, if the inverter is on, if it's inverting, if it's charging, etc, etc. Also, it means that we were able to set this up on a laptop, and it's all kind of going through Wi-Fi, so if there are any problems in the future, I can open up on a laptop and actually see what's going on and change settings and things remotely. So it just makes it really easy to actually configure and troubleshoot further down the line. So as with any build, any campervan, any electric system, it's going to work for some people and be too much or not enough for other people. So this campervan and this electric system is designed for people that don't want to worry about where their power's coming from. They don't want to worry about finding gas. They want to future-proof their van because gas is kind of doing this. Who it's not for is people that don't worry about having to have everything off-grid. Maybe their style of camping is going to more campsites, or if you're happy to have most of it running off electrics, it's set for the gas hob, and just maybe have a small camping gas bottle or a small colour gas bottle in the cupboard in a locker underneath the hob, and just use that as a small gas system. You can still have the diesel heater, but it means you'd kind of massively reduce your gas usage and you wouldn't have to have an underslung tank. So that's another way of combating it. So there's all different ways of going off-grid. There's different ways of reducing or eliminating gas, depending on your usage, where you're going, how you'll be staying and where you'll be staying, and always how much you want to spend. I hope that has helped you understand a little bit more about this system in particular, and 24 volt, 12 volt, and a few other different bits and bobs. So if you want to learn a bit more about any of those things, or if I haven't explained something in as much detail as you would like, let me know in the comments. We've also got a couple of blog articles on our website that talk you through some things, and you can actually spec out a system with me just by getting in contact with me through bearhugcampers.co.uk. We mainly do campervan conversions, all handcrafted and off-grid electric systems, together and also separately. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon.